itemized what, how's it get collected, if it doesn't get collected, when does it get transferred to the roll, what the county does with it, when the property gets foreclosed on, how they charge back. So I'm going to give it over to Jerry. He can start, and I can assist him if he wants me to assist him on anything.
All right, Jason. And I did not apologize. I did not make copies for the city council, but I will. I'll pass it around as I'm talking. What Jason and I put together was a flow chart that we will make copies of. We also spoke with Paul Zelenak. Paul is our Wayne County liaison. He worked with Ed Bersana directly on tax delinquencies and foreclosures and tax sale. But what we tried to answer for Councilman Bazura's benefit and the rest of the city council is what is the process for weed charges and then also for just property taxes in general that taxpayers don't pay. And before I begin into that, I wanted to first address why there's a large spike from last year. In July, we asked the city council to put roughly $45,000 on the summer tax roll. This year it's roughly $180,000. The primary, the reason for the large increase is we now have a flat rate charge. I think it's $200 or $250 per delinquent charge for cutting that automatically goes on the roll. In addition, we then add for the weed cutting or hazard tax. That's why there's a very large increase. And one other reason is we had a small increase as far as the number of homes that we cut this year over last year. But primarily the biggest reason is for that flat surcharge we're now adding to every taxpayer.
I have a question, Mr. Markey, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Just based on, what you've collected historically, do you have an idea of what percentage of this $188,000 that you may collect?
We do, and through Jason's benefit, what we've been able to determine is we collect roughly 40% locally at our level in July and December.
Okay.
And then, so 60% of what we try to collect is then turned over to the county.
Okay. Of that 60%, how much
And
of
of
the
that
city end up
60%,
forgiving?
with very, very fair question, we collect roughly 40% of that amount.
Okay.
So overall, when we get done, we're receiving 80 to 83% of the total taxes that we charge to taxpayers.
Okay.
So out of that 40% that we get, do we have the potential to collect more than that on our own before it goes to the county, and we're just not doing that? And, that's...
Can I ask? That Jason is from taxes, all right? We don't have anybody walking up to the counter and paying before their tax bill hits?
To build, to build off what what we're trying to do is just go over the process and then talk about the collection rates. So when we have pretty much we have 2 billing periods. Once the invoices come up from DPW or building department, ordinance department to us in budget and finance, and we set out the invoices, we kind of have 2 periods because we have a cutoff date that goes to the summer tax roll, we have a cutoff date that goes to winter tax roll. So before they go to the tax rolls, we collect nothing. We collect between 0 and 2%. When I looked at the historical data, that is nothing.
Right.
But what's interesting about my review is that when it goes to the summer and tax roll, then the winter roll we collect around 35% for the last couple of years. We've been collecting 35% through taxes, and we've been collecting about 41%, 42% of summer taxes, the ones that get transferred to summer taxes. So my question, and I don't think anybody has. I have some of my theories. But the question is, why do we go from nothing collected, and then it goes to the tax roll, we collect 35, 40%? And one of my theories is because people wait to go on taxes so they can use it as a tax deduction. Right. That's a theory, but the invoices that go to the houses are the same addresses that the taxes go to, so like I said, I really don't know
So
why
it's-
people wait until it goes onto their tax roll to
Right.
pay these assessments. But looking at the last, 5 years of data, it's been relatively the same every year.
Is it that maybe when it goes on the tax roll, then it's coming out of somebody's escrow, and they're not actually?
That's another theory too, that
They're
the
not
mortgage
actually
companies
coming
are paying the escrow.
Right.
But if I was individual taxpayer, I wouldn't want to do that because we think the mortgage company's gonna,
Then
they're
your
gonna
mortgage
jack up
goes
your
up
escrow.
next year, but yeah, but people sometimes don't have the money upfront.
Could be, could be.
I got a question, are these, I had a situation last year, property owner, the neighbor cut the property for 5 years. He's an absentee owner, hasn't been around. So he just assumed it was being cut. Well, the neighbor decided to stop cutting it. He didn't get a bill until December for 3 cuts during the summer. So he got charged a $250 fee plus the cuts 3 times.
And that's another thing too, is that I know I talked to the person in my department that handles the invoicing, and they do say that they are behind, or they don't get the information to us timely too, which
Well,
is an issue that we're going to address in turn.
And his problem was, if I would've known, I would've got it cut.
Who's
Yeah.
responsible for getting the information to
Yeah, so-
accounts payable then?
Accounts receivable, I think
Accounts
it's,
receivable, I'm
I
sorry.
think it's the building department, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not exactly sure whose responsibility it is to get the invoices up to us, but we did recognize that because it's also, when we're doing the transfer to the tax roll, we noticed that we have a time frame. We noticed that there's some before the time frame that we transfer to. And I asked about that, it's like, why do we have these old dates on here? That's because we didn't get the invoice, we didn't get the information invoice until a month or two after it was actually done, so.
And that's really the point of my initial question is, we're getting 0 to 2%. And I'm saying, what are we doing, or is there any value in improving that? But if we're not getting you an invoice in December for something we did in July, and it's immediately then going on the tax roll, we're not even giving ourselves a chance to improve that 0 to 2%.
But that's where the cutoff dates come in, that we definitely, our cutoff dates are way before, or not way before, but they're significantly before the tax transfer. So it's not like we're putting out a bill and then they got 3 days to pay, it's going on the tax roll. We don't have that kind of cutoff, but.
No, I'm just saying, if the service was in July, you think the invoice would be sometime shortly after July?
At least
When we hear that it might, in Charlie's case, it was 6 months, it then doesn't shock me that we're getting 0 to 2%.
Yes, and I don't have an answer for that, but it's something that we will be investigating. So, and with Glenn, I'll take the matter up with Glenn and see if he can figure that out on his end as well too. But yeah, now, again, I just don't see how we can improve on that 0 to 2% collection. That, to me, I just don't understand why people are not paying until it actually gets on their tax roll. I mean,
Well, some of it is they don't have the bill.
Right.
Well, but with the cutoff dates, they definitely would have the bill before the cutoff dates, so that's what I'm saying. I can't imagine that would be the
Does the
majority of
homeowner
it.
actually get an invoice?
They get invoiced, yes.
A lot of times what happens internally is when the citation is issued and they're ordered to go out and cut the grass, the company will cut the grass, and then in the building department, they'll hold that violation and wait for that invoice to come in. So there could be a delay depending on who's cutting the grass. They might do billings at the end of the month, or they might do it every 2 weeks. So, I mean, there could be a delay happening there, because then they get it to verify that these are the before, these are the after pictures, the grass did get cut, therefore it goes up to accounting, so the invoice is generated. But there could be some lag in that administrative process. Again, 6 months is, not really, that would be shocking, but, I could see if there was a, 30-day drag in it, or even a 45-day, depending on what their process is.
Can we get a copy of the invoice? I'm just curious what it looks like, how it reads, what I as a homeowner would get, and how I would react to that.
It's a very generic
The
invoice.
setting now, I don't know what this represents. This is 188 grand, right? So this is, I would think just by dumb luck, more than 2% of the people would come in and pay some of these invoices.
I would think so, but.
So I'd like to understand the process a little bit better. I think if I got that bill in the mail, I'd come in and pay it. And to hear that it's 0 to 2%, something's wrong with that process, and I don't know where. Well, in your case, I would say, yeah, now Jason's saying they technically still could have had more months coming in because we rolled it to the next cycle, but it's still X months after that service was provided. I mean, if you look at the list that Jerry sent us, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of properties that we've cut 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And now we're hearing that we really only eventually will collect 80 to 85% of that money. So knowing that if we had a better collection process up front, maybe our overall return would be